This is the 30th of August, 1997, and this is Victoria Ekegren interviewing, and we're here with Michael Romano.
Romano.
Okay, and from the 119. So if you can begin me, tell me, where were you born?
I was born in Chicago.
What year?
1920, December 15th, 1920.
Tell me about your parents.
Well, Dad was a salesman. My mother got married very young. I think she was about 17. Really didn't have a chance to get a job. And she raised six children. And I come from a family of six. I had a brother who was in the Air Force. And when I was a young fella, I always loved toy soldiers. When Christmas came, that's all I wanted was toy soldiers. And I played with it for hours upon hours. In those days, we had no television, we had radio, so our imagination is what we used. And I used to have a lot of fun. And when they had a parade downtown, I used to like to go, and I got a great thrill out of seeing the flag flying and watching the soldiers march by. And then when the war came, I had a friend in the National Guard. He got killed in Guadalcanal. He was only about 18 or 19. He was a sergeant from the National Guard. The government took over the National Guard and made him into the regular army. And then I decided I wanted to go. So I just got out of high school, and I went to apply for the Marines, and they turned me down because although I was in physical education, I had a real fine built on me because I did gymnastics. My eyesight wasn't quite up to par. In those days, you had to be practically a pilot to get in the Marines or the Navy. So I was rejected by the Marine and the Navy, very heartbroken. And then, of course, when the war came, Pearl Harbor, as you know, I believe it's December 6th, when Pearl Harbor came, then my patriotism just went overwhelming. And I was 20. I was 21 that same month. My brother Ted already was in the Air Force, and I wanted to go so bad, and I wasn't going to wait to get drafted. So 3 months later, I volunteered for service. I was not drafted. I volunteered, and that was the date of that was March the 30th, 1942. And I went to service at Camp Grant, and then from Camp Grant, after about a week, they sent us out to. Of course, we were equipped with our uniforms and our shots and all that. We're sent out to Camp Campbell, Kentucky. No, sorry, forgive me. It was Fort Knox, Kentucky first. I did my basic training in the Armored Force Replacement Training Center there, and came out a corporal after 8 or 9 weeks. I was promoted corporal. We moved out as cadre to Camp Campbell, Kentucky, to form the nucleus of the 12th Armored Division. They weren't to be activated until 3 months later, but we were the nucleus of it. And we trained for a couple of months, and then they brought out what we call our fillers, which filled up the division. We got people from all walks of life. And, excuse me, and we trained very hard. They trained very hard. Some of the fillers became non-coms because they're very, very, very fine material for the Army. And by the way, the organization I was put in was slated for was the 119th Armored Engineer Battalion of the 12th Army, which I went into right away. I was in Company A, and my company commander was Colonel H.E. Halton. He was from Texas. Wonderful young fellow. He could have been more than a couple years older than I was. I think he went to Texas A&M. Excellent engineer. And I guess they saw his potentials right off the bat, and after a couple of months he was moved up to battalion headquarters. And he liked me very well. I didn't know how well he liked me, but he asked for me to be transferred up to battalion headquarters with him. And he asked me if I wanted to take over the mail of the battalion. And he explained to me how important it was that without the mail, the troops' morale would be nothing, because their contact with their wives, their mothers, their girlfriends was all with the mail. And we had to get it out no matter what. No matter how bad the conditions were, the mail had to go. It's important as food. So with that instructed with us, I had 6 company clerks, mail clerks from the companies, and I went from headquarters, and I was 7, and I trained them as best I could, as I was told, the importance of it. I passed it on to them. They were real good about it, too, very conscientious. And we trained, but of course we still had to train with the rest of the troops. We did our training and so forth. because you never know when you have to use your Army training. And we then, after a year and a half in Campbell, Kentucky, we went on maneuvers to Nashville, Tennessee. And then in Nashville, Tennessee, I forgot the length of time, a month or 2 months, whatever it was, in maneuvers, we were shipped out by train to Camp Barkley, Texas, which is just outside of Abilene. And that became our new home. And we all trained very hard there. I think we went out in the desert there, just to maneuver up there with the tanks and all that. I remember we dug had to dig foxholes in that hard soil out there in the desert. And one of the fellas found the rattlesnake in there one day, and they killed it. And then the water there was foul, and we had to make it was combat simulated conditions. The engineers had the job of purifying the water. So there was a dirty old swamp with dead rattlesnakes floating around it, and we had to purify that water for them to drink it. And when they got done, you couldn't tell what the difference. It was just as clear as could be. And we got a drinking water from there. And then, of course, we trained for a year and a half or so, and then we got our orders. We're going to go overseas. Well, there's a part of my life I'd like to bring in there. If I come up to you in any way at all, just let me know. I know your time is limited. My wife, who I met when I was on furlough. I went back to Chicago on furlough, and I met my wife there. And she was just 18. She's just out of high school. She went to Western Union Center in Chicago, because she comes from a small town. She was a farming girl. She comes from, and I was a city guy, and it didn't make any difference. We hit it right off. And she was going to school at Western Union Center there to learn different equipment and so forth from Western Union, which she was going to use. And we went on about 3 dates. That's all we had, because I was limited to my time. I had to go back. And we fell in love right off the bat. And I went back to camp, and we wrote each other every day, and I wrote her every day. And we got to know each other so much by mail. I think better than we could have actually meeting in person. And then when I had to write her one day, about 2 months after we had met, I told her we've been alerted. We're going to go overseas. Excuse me. Well, then we had to say goodbye, and by train we were shipped out of Camp Barkley, and we went to Camp Shanks, New York. We were shipped overseas to New York. We were supposed to land in France, and our equipment was there in France waiting for us. But we got just about halfway over the ocean, and it took us 11 days, by the way, by boat. And we got halfway over the ocean, and they told us that we're going to go to England, Salisbury, England, because our equipment was General Patton took our equipment. They're just getting ready to break out an army, and he was running slow on equipment. He took our equipment. And so we were in a month in England, and we re-equipped there with our tanks and that. Well, anyhow, we took an LST. That's these landing boats. I think you've seen them in pictures where they throw down. These were big ones though, or flat bottoms, and the front of the boat goes down, and your troops, your tanks, everything will go off. And there was about maybe there. We went up we hit France, and we went up the Seine River, if I remember correctly, and I believe we landed in Rouen, France. And we thought we were going to be assigned to the 9th Army, but the last minute they shipped us over to the 7th Army, which is General Patch. And we fought under General Patch all the way through, and except for 1 week, Patton was getting ready for a push, and he wanted a crackerjack armored force, and I guess he figured we were for a short time in combat, but at that time we felt we were pretty good. We went to the mysterious division, and we had all our markings on our bumpers and everything were painted off, so the Germans would know where we're coming from. Otherwise, they realized we were with the 7th Army, and they'd be a little weak, see. So we spearheaded him, and I think one of us, I forget the miles, 65 miles, whatever it was, leading his army, which was maybe 2 other armored divisions, I don't know how many infantry divisions. And we never really got credit for that. We were called the Mysterious Division because, in fact, we went in as the Mysterious Division. And it was after that that I think the people of the 12th Armored Association were working for another battle star because they felt we had that coming, and we did. And then our division, as you probably know, had a great record. I think we took over 60,000 German prisoners of war. We had 3,200 casualties, I believe. and we had 800 and some men killed. And we finally, although the war, as you probably know, ended, and when I think we were up until just about up to Austria, I believe, when they stopped us and told us that we were the war was over. And some of the guys in our convoy got excited and started shooting their guns off, and we were told they can't do that. We went back to Heidenheim, Germany, where we served a firing occupation. And then one day we were notified that they're breaking down with the point system. You couldn't, they take you home by points. We're going to go home after 6 months of occupation, where I was. And they're going to send us home, and we were going by points. So they took us out by points to other divisions, which we all felt bad about because the 12th Armor was our division. I activated it. I was with it 3 months before the division actually activated it. To me, that was my second home, and I felt bad that I couldn't come back with them, because I had 62 points, just a little under. So I came back with the 100th Infantry Division, but that wasn't my division. And this happened to a lot of us. All of us were sent out different divisions, according to our points that we had. Because that's the only way. They couldn't take us all home at once, and they had a point system. They took so many points for overseas, so many points for a medal, so many points for this, and so forth, so many points for each month through the service. And I had almost 4 years. And then meantime, my wife and I were riding. I ride to her all the time. I used to ride by candlelight from a truck from the floor. Depends where we're at. We were sleeping on the ground in trucks and in old bombed-out houses and old barns and what have you. I remember one day sleeping in a barn there, a mouse ran over my face. It wasn't a very good feeling. And we had a great group of fellas. I think the fellas of the 12th Armored Division could hold their heads high, because for the length of time that we were in combat, which I think was 5 months, some of the armored divisions had more time than we had, because they were formed earlier than ours was. We had one of the best records for 5 months. And you must remember, when I say our casualties were 3,200 casualties and 832 killed, I believe. That we were only about 11,000 men, So you'd say that's almost like what, 20, maybe 25% of the division, or a third division, I say perhaps. We lost in combat. They're a great group of fellas. I get emotional sometimes when I talk about it. I don't mean to. I have a grandson that just graduated college, and it seems like they don't teach the kids in school today about the World War II, what it's all about, and so forth. All they know is we dropped a bomb on Hiroshima, and that was wrong. And especially Pearl Harbor, where they killed thousands of our people, our troops, our sailors, mostly our sailors, destroyed all those boats. We weren't even expecting it, And then on all the soldiers we lost in Guadalcanal, and it does in the Pacific now, Iwo Jima, and you go right down the line, and they lost. These fellows hit those beaches. They had casualties in the thousands just hit those beaches. And President Truman, as you probably know at the time, decided that he was going to drop the atomic bomb, because they figured if we had to invade Japan, we would lose about 3 million men. It was the millions anyways. And he felt it wasn't worth it. And which is true, because they dropped it once or twice. Maybe I don't know how many people were killed, but it was a lot less than we'd have lost in American troops. And I wouldn't be here today, and a lot of us wouldn't be here today. Because when the war in Europe ended, a couple of months before the war in Japan ended, I understand our division was slated to go to the Pacific. So who knows what would have happened, But that was part of it. So anyways, I think he made the right decision. And I think that people have a tendency today to change history. They don't tell it as it is. And they don't teach them history in schools like they should. But I get back to my grandson. He didn't know very much about, he graduated college. He didn't know very much about World War II at all. I'd explained about Bataan, Corregidor. I don't know if you know about Bataan and Corregidor. And the invasions, the war in the Pacific, the war in Europe, and all those things like that. It's very scant information he had. He said they just didn't teach it in school. And I don't know why they do that, because what made us guys in World War II fight like we did? We knew our history. We learned it, but they teach it to us in school. And we were all patriots. We loved our country. Oh, sure, a lot of fellows had to get drafted to go, because, but once they were in, and they were good soldiers, the best. So because we were what you might call a civilian army, because the bulk of them were civilians, But then comes some mistakes they made, which I think the politicians are. I'll get into something I shouldn't, suppose. But the politicians should make a lot of bad mistakes today. I think the war in Korea should have been. We should fight a war, in other words, to win. You don't fight this police action stuff is a lot of baloney. And the soldiers over there fighting that police action say the same thing. They did it in Korea. They lost thousands of men. They did it in Vietnam. We didn't lose that war in Vietnam. We gave it away because we didn't hit them whatever we had. We let and people back here were demoralized about this war because they didn't back the troops. They made it look like we were the bad ones. We went in the first place because they were slaughtering those people over there, and that's how we got involved. Then it turned around that we were slaughtering them. You see, so you can't win. Well, we'll get back to our our division. Colonel Holland was our battalion commander. He was from Texas, and I think you might like to hear that because he's a Texas boy. Terrific. I really liked that man. He was one of the young fellows, but we were men. I really liked him. I think he was fair. He was intelligent. He was a great commanding officer. And another officer that stands out in my mind was Chaplain Biscard. The chaplain married my wife and I in Chapel 6 in Camp Barkley, and a great chaplain. When she come down, she's only not an 18-year-old. She was a kid, but she was very mature. She come from off a farm. She could sew, she could cook, she could do everything, where a lot of city girls can't do. She was run down to earth, and much older than her, 18 years. And he talked to me first, and he asked me if wanted to make sure that I knew what I was doing, because a lot of marriages in wartime weren't working out. They're quick marriages, and people just were working on emotions more than anything else. And my wife, and he talked to her, and he was very well pleased with her, and he married us. And we had about 12, maybe 12 soldiers came to our wedding in the chapel there. And I tell you the truth, we didn't have much money. I don't know how we did it, because in those days, nobody had hardly any know-it-alls. We were going on a shoestring. And my best man was Sergeant Jimmy Meyer and his wife Betts. He was at a Company C, then battalion headquarters. He's from Erie, Pennsylvania, and a nice, what a beautiful couple. He was our best man, and she was the lady waiting for my wife, and we celebrated our wedding night. After we had dinner in the restaurant in town, and then we I went to our room. We had a little party, and then he after a while, his wife left for their room, and anyways. That's the hotel at the museum is in now. It was the Grace Hotel, I believe. And it was strange because we were back in Abilene last year for the memorial, and we got a chance to go to the museum and so forth. And as soon as we walked into that building, my wife she screamed, "That's it, that's it!" And we looked up to say, I said, is that room we're in still up there? Said, no, it's all museum now. I said, well, what happened to the bed? I said, I like that bed. Anyhow, we had, the museum is great. I think you people are doing an excellent job. And I very impressed. The train station you were talking about in that picture, my wife remembers waiting at that train station, coming and going, and she almost cried because, there were sad times for us, and we only really knew each other in actual physical, knowing each other outside of writing was maybe three days in Chicago and 5 days in Abilene, and she stuck by me all the way through. When I come out, we just picked up like that, We have a boy and a girl, and both wonderful children. They're grown ups naturally. My son is he's the head, one of the heads. He's a regional director, so forth, for the Tootsie Roll Charms Company. He travels around the country a lot. My daughter was at Byrd College. She was on the staff, and she now does it voluntarily because she raised a little boy. And I think that but the sad part is they don't know the history of the war, World War II. I think you're doing a great job at that. I wish you stick with it. I wish other colleges would get involved, not just with our division, but other divisions. Pick it up. Make these make them understand they have to teach. Our country's based on history, and it's a proud history. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Even the Vietnam War, don't be ashamed of that, because those boys went over and died for a cause they believed in. And I don't care what you heard about this and that. War is hell. People make mistakes, but nobody. These boys didn't want that. But when you fight for your country, we always say, right or wrong, it's your country. Because if your country loses, you'll go down with that. See, like if we lost that war, you realize you'd be speaking Japanese now or German, one or the other, and you wouldn't have the freedom. I doubt if you have a television in your house. I mean, you have no idea what the luxuries we enjoy and take for granted today. You never would have. A chance for a good education, raising families, and all the good things you enjoy today really come from those fellows in World War II going out there and fighting their hearts out and sacrificing as they have to give the coming generations a chance to enjoy some of the things we have. We're worried right now because we see something missing. We see this. We see that the marriages. There's 50% of the marriages are divorces. There are a lot of things here that bother us that we don't think is going in the right direction. The crime thing, for example, it's terrible. And you read about more crimes. I never my dreams could imagine people be doing things, with killing their babies, and it's just awful. And this is rough. Something's drastically wrong here, and they've got to correct it. And I wish, I wish the churches, whether Catholic, Protestant, or whatever they are, would take a strong stand and really get out and the TV, the television, which they have all these dirty movies. They're dirty. You can't pick up watch a TV, especially in our area, and there's such that cable that there isn't a lot of hanky-panky going on, so to speak. And you think these young girls are 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and young men, their minds are just developing. They think that's what they see on TV is what they think that's all right to do that. They're doing it. Why don't we? See? And you got all these pregnancies in high school now. It's all because of these crazy notions as far as teaching the kids birth control. All you're doing is telling them, go ahead, kids, you're safe, and you're not. See? So we know this. You can't stop AIDS with the protection they tell you about. I wouldn't know that. But the point I'm talking about is that something is missing. And I wish, pray to God, that we get it back in the right track. I believe in advancement. I'm not saying a lot of the old ways were the best. There were things in the old ways were not so good either. But we're not going. We're missing something here. Our politicians, for example, I don't want to get into politics, but it seems like they're too much involved in their image, finagling and all this sort of thing, than they are actually doing the job for the country. Your country comes first. As far as parties go, Republicans, Democrats, that doesn't count. It's you're in office. You are to do what's good for the country, not good for your party or for you, but what's best for the country. But unfortunately, they can't think that way. They see right down the line, it's you're Republican, you're Democrat, and that's where you go. See. Oh, there's something you want to ask me to help along here?
Tell me some more about your life in Abilene.
In Abilene? All right. I really enjoyed our stay at Abilene. Now, at honeymoon, of course, they have my wife there. Our marriage license from there. You already have it. We gave it to Dr. Williams and Mrs. Miller, too. Our marriage license is from Abilene. We, of course, our happy days were very happy days for us there, and we have very fond memories. And we hold Abilene very close to our heart because for us that's where it all started. See, and it's a beautiful town. It was much smaller in those days. I was kind of broken hearted when I saw the campus torn down. Not that I was, but it's just something. I went back there to kind of relive, the old days, and of course all I found was a bunch of stones and foundation things, But however, there's a beautiful memorial they have there. We had a beautiful ceremony there. The people were friendly, and the whole town, I think, is great. They really are a patriotic town, and I should say town. It's what you call a city now. Would it be a city? It's a real patriotic city. People are great, and I think that we're privileged that they honor us the way they do. Now, I know there are other divisions at Camp Barkley. And the fact that they picked our division to be the one that they wanted to represent, I think that's terrific. I'm very pleased, very honored, and I can tell you from my heart, I can say you couldn't have picked a better division. They were good, and I'm sure that we made a few mistakes like most of them do, but every man was a hero. I'll say this: no matter what his job was, whether he was back in rear echelon and he had a job, you know, like making payroll or keeping records, whatever his job was, you know. And he managed to carry that rifle in the front, or the driver's guy who's driving the tank. Could not function without them. He had to have supplies, gasoline, food. Of course, the mail was always right in with the food, see. I'll tell you a few experiences I had. You might want to hear these there, as long as we're on that subject. I'm glad you brought this up. We went up one day, and we ran out of maps. We advanced so far ahead. You know, we had maps to follow. We went so far ahead, we ran out of maps. We didn't know where we were going. You know, we could have wound up in the Germans' hands, you know. But I had a boy from, I think it was a southern boy from, I think, South Carolina, and he knew his directions. He was great. He was real good. He was driving, and he got us there. And when we got there, we had, there was this, first thing I saw was the collection point. Well, here's the food where they come to get, the guys that come to get the trucks will come to get the food for the men to take it back, maybe 3 or 4 miles to where they were. And there was 10 dead bodies there, you know. And I walked over to look. There was 5 American soldiers who were dead. And there was 5 German soldiers who were dead. And if you just took the uniforms off, you wouldn't know who was who. That's the thing that struck me. See, they're just like we are, you know, except they had a Hitler and a goofed up government. And by the way, I'll get off the tracker, but I firmly believe that Germany got into the rut that it was in because of the propaganda. Goebbels was their propaganda minister for Hitler, and he controlled the newspapers. There was no TV, the radios. All the information that was fed to the people came through him. And the papers did as he said. There was no freedom of press or speech. And he spouted the Hitler line, and continuously with these people. They're very intelligent people, but they believe all this, you see. And so they thought they're fighting. I brought that out because they're fighting for what they believe was right, and it wasn't right. You know about the Holocaust and all. By the way, we saw that too. But anyways, when I was up there at the front, I'll get to that in a little while. When I was up at the front there, they had taken so many prisoners, and they had to get rid of them because they want to keep going, you know. They said, well, you guys are going back. Take these prisoners back with you. So they filled up our truck with about 50 of them in the back of the truck. And then they got a little trailer, and they stuck it on the back, and they put me on there with 3 Germans and with my M1 rifle. And these Germans were, she said, twice the size I was. So they could take me if they wanted to take me. You know, I'm holding on so I don't fall out the trailer. I couldn't shoot, you know, or nothing. But they wanted to come back as our prisoners because they didn't want the Russians to get them, see, because they knew that'd be hell. So that helped a lot. So we got them back to the prison, back to the stockade where our MPs were. And this big German, I think it was a high officer, I think it was a colonel, or maybe a brigadier general. He got out, a great big guy. He looked like the ones you see in the movie with the uniform on, well-built man. And they said to him, get in the stockade with the rest of them. And he says, no, I'm not going. I'm an officer. I should be separated. Well, there was a heavyweight champion from our division standard. There was an Irish kid named McHugh. He just hit him once and knocked him right down. The German officer got up and walked right into the stockade. I'll always remember that. And then we, as far as the Holocaust goes, when we went to Washington, D.C. last year, we had a reunion there, and we had a chance to see the Holocaust Museum, and it's horrible. Well, our division liberated some of those. We're part of the liberation of some of those camps. And I remember seeing we were driving up through there, you know, we were on our big push, and I see these people walking through the town. They all had these kind of striped-like uniforms, raggedy, run-down, skinny. And one would walk by the truck, and he was Walking Dead. He didn't have, all he had was skin and bones, and his eyes were just glossy, looking right out, you know. And I said, well, I couldn't imagine, where did he come from? Then because we found out about the camps, see. And then I realized that's what happened. He must have come out of the camps. And they piled the bodies up there like logs. You saw pictures of that. We have a lot of pictures of that, so I won't go to that. But we feel we just, then we also liberated some of the PW camps, prison war camps. Well, a lot of soldiers were in there. And we had some of our guys who were PWs at Herdesheim. You know about Herdesheim, the beating we took there. And we didn't take I say a beating, we had our greatest casualty for Herdesheim. That was a baptism of fire. But we held. And we didn't break. And then the 36th Infantry Division, which was the Texas Division. And they already saved us because we couldn't. See, an armored division is not built to really hold a defensive movement. We're an aggressor. We push, we go ahead, we take. But then we got to depend on the infantry divisions to come up and consolidate and hold what we take, see. So what we had a holding action, which really isn't something we don't do too well. Well, they chose some of the best divisions at us, 3 or 4 divisions against an armored division that was supposed to be holding, see. And we held them. But long enough for the 36 to come up and dig in. Well, they thought they had us that night, you know. They knew they just about had us, and then they come through with everything they got. Well, 36 was all lined up there with their big guns. They had bigger guns than we had. They say they lined them up, I don't know how many feet high of bodies. The Germans were really surprised. They didn't expect it, you know. Well, that broke their back there. And I think that was the last big push. That was right after the Bulge, you know. And speaking of Bulge, we were headed for that at night to help out. Pat beat us to it, and they called us back to the 7th Army where we belong. We had, there was some of the situations we had. Oh, back after the war, after the war, we were in Heidenheim, and we had our headquarters was there for our battalion, and a lot of the division was there too. And we had, they gave me a message to take to the German prisoners of war were also at the other end of the town there, encamped, and they gave me a message to take to the general of that army. It was a German army. In fact, let me explain this. I saw this army marching back, and I thought it was our guys, and they surrendered, but they didn't have any guns, but they're marching. What a formation! I looked. I said, that isn't our guys. It was the German army marching back to be taken prisoner, you know. And there was maybe 1 or 2 GIs around looking, but they were on their own. And it seemed like that to me anyways. But anyways, I took this message into this house where these officers were, and all these high German officers are, and I was just a sergeant, and I walked in, and I couldn't find myself saluting them, you know. And the commanding officer came over, I guess a general, and he took the message from me, and I just saluted them, and they all gave me dirty looks, you know. They looked, they wanted to beat me up. So anyhow, I pulled out of there. That was another experience I remember. That I think about sometimes. But you know, I do get talking about this thing kind of sentimental, because I never realized I never did that before. The older you get, the more sentimental you get. But I find myself, you think about the fellows that got killed, and I keep thinking to myself, it could have been me, you know. But of grace of God, it wasn't, you know. I was infant in the organization from way before, and perhaps if I had wound up in one of our infantry battalions or tank battalion, I might not have been around, you know. Our engineers, you know, fought as infantry. Mm-hmm. Our guys fought as infantry. They laid mines. They laid bridges, built bridges. Terrific. The division could have gone a lot of places without them. And every 5th half track was the engineers. And when they got to a place that called for engineers, they radio back, and up come our guys, you know. Whatever we needed, you know, as many men as they needed. In Herdesham, our fellows were, I think it was B Company that fought at one end of the hill. They were run out of infantry, and we fought as infantry. B Company held one end of the line there for them at Herdesham. Fought beautifully as infantry. Of course, we were trained to be fight as infantry as well. See, but so we were kind of back up for the infantry, as well as more sophisticated with the laying of the mines and digging up minefields. Treadway bridges, and I think one of the longest treadway bridges I think at that time was laid by one of our companies. I forget which one. They have good company commanders. We had one officer that struck me in my mind. His name was T.H. Martin Jr. He was a West Pointer, a lieutenant. He'd have been a general someday. He was so well trained and so good. The men liked him, and he was very capable. And of course, not to put the OCS fellas down, a lot of them were real good officers. He was trained to be an officer. He was, you know, most of our officers was, like you might say, ex-civilians. This man was trained, and those fellows that come out of West Point they are the greatest. I have the greatest respect for them. And I will say this, that I think President Clinton makes a big mistake in not picking a West Pointer for commander in chief. It's hard for a fellow to work his way up from the bottom. That's terrific, but don't make him commander in chief. These fellows went to school for years, learned various command schools and various this and very that. And they are the cream. And to overlook West Pointer is I think, to me, is an insult. Of course, Clinton was not an army man. You know, I don't want to say that he's a draft dodger, but anyhow, it's just something else you'd like to maybe.
What exactly were you trained to do?
I'm trained to do? I was trained as an engineer in the beginning, you know, when it does some basic training thing and that. We did learn how to, in basic training, I was shoot a machine gun out of a tank, you know, and we learned the gun fundamentals, you know, taking the rifle apart, the machine gun apart, and all that, you know, and marching and drilling and target practice and all that stuff, you know. Went through the whole bit, and even when I was moved up to battalion headquarters, there were times I had to go back and we always had some school going to target practice, you know, and we used to have mock villages where we used to go through, and they'd a silhouette would pop up over here, and you didn't know where it's going to come from. So you're supposed to come around, shoot, you know, without even aiming. You know, you carry a gun about like here. You don't get a chance to put up here and take a shot. You go, you shoot from your hip. And now he may pop up to the left here. This silhouette, it's a wooden house like it. He may pop up from a window there, maybe a window over. You don't know where it's going to come, and how quick you respond, see, and what you do, and maybe how accurate you might have been. This is what they were trying to get you at, see. And I went through that a lot of times too, see. Then we had the infiltration course, where you had barbed wire, and you had to crawl under that barbed wire, and while you were crawling on barbed wire, they were shooting live ammunition over your head with tracer bullets. Every fifth one, you could tell. So they would know where they're shooting too. Every fifth bullet was a tracer, so they could see if they're shooting high or low. They always try to shoot above you, see. But if you ever panic, which you get is the impulse to get up sometimes, to get up and run, you're gone. See, but fortunately, I don't think that's happened very many times. Another time we're learning how to shoot the 30 caliber machine gun. You had a big line of 30 caliber machine guns on a line, and each one of us guys behind one of those guns learned how to shoot that machine gun. Well, if you freeze, you'd be surprised. Some of those guys freeze in that machine gun, and they won't let go of the trigger. Then there's this sergeant walking around watching, and he sees you freeze, he'll kick that gun right out of your hand. See, so some guys do freeze. See, that's what we say about experience and so forth. I'm not saying everybody goes to combat isn't scared. They are scared. But the point is, even your Audie Murphy was scared. You know about Audie Murphy? He was a Texas boy, one of the most decorated heroes we ever had. He'll tell you he was scared. But from that scaredness, you develop an instinct for survival, see, and that's what brings them true. Some fellas, unfortunately, give in and they might get up and run, you know. But most fellas seem to hold their what they're supposed to do. But there isn't a guy who can tell you he wasn't scared unless he lies to you, because it's natural to be scared. It's human instinct to be scared. That's part of your mechanism in the human body to survive, is to be scared. If you weren't scared, even in civilian life, you know, you could run into a car, get hit by a car, you know, or you wouldn't know when to turn away from a bad situation when you should. See, yeah, it's just a little of my preaching. My wife says I should have been a preacher. See, and something else you might want to ask me.
What has the 12th Armored Division Association meant to you after the war?
All right. When I left the service, I had heard that they had an association. Unfortunately, I was involved with raising my family, and finances weren't too great at the time, because we all were struggling, you know, and so forth. And I didn't think I could get involved at that time because I didn't think I had the finances to do it, you know. You had to be able to take train trips, you know, you had to go to hotels, you know, and stuff like that, and I couldn't do it at the time, see. So I didn't get involved, and then when I retired about 6 years ago, I belonged to the Veteran Foreign Wars, a life member, also a life member of the 12th Armored Division too. And they have a section in the Veteran Foreign War magazine we get every month about reunions. And I've been looking for a long time. And one time I saw one of our reunions up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And I called. There's a phone number. And that was the start of it. The guy told me, come on down, you're welcome. And I come down, I joined. A year later, I became a life member. And I've been all the reunions since. I haven't missed any in the last 5 years. I've been involved with the reunion they had in Schaumburg. I was involved with that. I had some duties they gave me on that, and I wasn't in the organization very long. But I've been in something that a lot of them don't get in for 15, 20 years. You know, I think, you know, it doesn't happen right off the bat, anyways. And then I've been with the chapter meetings we have. Like you had the one in the Abilene one, and they call it the Southwest chapter. They went in Abilene, which we wanted to go so bad because of our marriage there, and I was happy to see it. We didn't hesitate to go. But we were involved with the one they call the Midwest chapter meeting, which was takes care of Illinois, Michigan, Iowa, and I think Ohio. And we Jim and Lee Meissen, very good friends of ours, been in the organization for a long time. We became very good friends. They were the host and we were the co-hosts. We helped them out. In other words, they had all the experience, but we presented and were big helps to them. And we've been involved with that about 3 times. So for the short time we've been in the association, I think we've been pretty active. See, I was asked to run for vice president for the association, but I felt the short period of time I was in, and I'm not getting any younger. I'll be honest with you, I copped out. But in civilian life, I was the vice president of a bank. That's what I worked up to. It didn't happen. It was hard. I started out as when I first got out of service, I started out working for a dairy. I was delivering milk for 4 years. Then I wanted to better myself, so I got a job. I saw an ad with Liberty Loan Company, which when you're an assistant manager, to train you for it, and I went, well, that'd be like going back to school, so fine. I took advantage of that, and in the meantime, I was working at the post office part-time, because, just didn't pay too much to start out with, so I needed both jobs. So I was working about 15, 16 hours a day for about 8 years. And then then I wound up at the First Commercial Bank, and I was a loan officer there. They let about a year, then they run out of funds for making loans, so I got a job at the Northwest National Bank of Chicago, and I was with them for 27 years, and I worked up from a loan officer all the way up to vice president. And then I retired at 62, because I was getting high blood pressure, and I figured it's time for me to move on, take things easy. But I think the job I held at the Northwest National Bank was an important one. I had charge of the State Farm auto insurance car financing, which was to our area. It was about 550 State Farm agents and maybe 45 managers, and then associated with the agent directors, the people in Bloomington. So I was pretty proud of myself. And when I left, they sent somebody down from Bloomington, Illinois, to the main office to take me to lunch and tell me to stay. And I said I got to go. So I felt I did a pretty good job with our banking with them as well. Because the association I learned in the Army, you treat everybody as well as you can. Don't put anybody down, and treat someone as you'd like to be treated yourself. Show them respect. Even when I was making loans, I never insulted a man. I turned him down to make him feel bad when I had to turn him down. I always give him an excuse that he can walk away and still be proud. Not feel like he'd been beat to a pulp or something. Or some people go, well, can't help you, something like that. See, well, that's what I learned in the Army. You have to learn to get along. That's important. And if you don't get along in the Army, you won't get along anywhere. And that's just about what it is. You meet people from all walks of life. My wife is from the country. I'm from the city. We get along. Our family are farmers. They think the world of me. You see. So, I mean, you just have to treat people how you want to be treated. And I'll tell you one thing: the farmers are pretty smart people. Anybody put them down. I like their logic. I like their common sense and their judgment. In most cases, they're good. Especially those old German farmers. My wife's German descent. I mean, by the way, my wife's folks go back to almost the Revolutionary War. They've been pioneers, covered wagon, the whole bit, And mine were, my mother and dad were born here. My grandparents come from Europe, But I think I owe a lot to the 12th Armored Division. I really do. They've been good for me, and I was lucky to have officers that I could respect and like that Colonel Holland. I think Colonel Holland came in one time. I was in the room I was working on it, and he showed me a picture of his girlfriend. He was a nice-looking young guy, I was a young guy too. He's about a year or two older than me. And he showed me a picture of his girlfriend. She's a pretty girl from Texas. I guess those Texas girls are pretty. Those Texas girls are very pretty, and they were very pretty girls. And she was a lovely-looking girl. And I felt kind of proud that he would come to me to show me her picture, because I was just as hard, But he knew I was, he saw something in me as a person, individual that ranked in me anything, to him. There was a Lieutenant Jones, a personnel officer, that took a liking to me. He was a Southern boy, and he couldn't do enough for me. And I was sorry. He was an adjutant. I was sorry to see him leave. He was about 2 years, an older guy, but he was a nice guy. Yeah. And well, maybe you can think of something that can help me a little bit here. If there's something you'd like to ask me that you can help me.
Do you have any other stories?
Anyone?
Do you have any other stories that you want to tell us?
Well, I'm trying to think. There's so many, and then all of a sudden everything blanks out. I'll tell you one thing. It's a lonely life, very lonely. And I was fortunate to have a girl back home that I could write to and write me back all the time. It gave me something to really go for, you know. And there were times you get discouraged. I remember one time when we were moving up in the truck, my driver and I, and there was infantry guys marching up on the east side of the road, and we machine gun fire went off in the distance, and they all hit the ground, and we're out in the road there with the trucks. The only thing I think of was, you know, well, we got to get this mail through. So I got up in the hood of the truck with my rifle and sat there hoping if I could see somebody before they saw me. But fortunately, nothing ever came of that. And that was one experience but I said, now, why did I do that? And I got to the point, I said, well, I think what it is, after it's so long, like I was, you know, a lot of the guys are the same way. You almost get to the point, you don't care. Like, I mean, not you don't care, but you feel if it's going to come, it's going to come. If it don't, it don't, see. And you get not good sometimes. You can make it a little more reckless than you should, you know. But that was the way I felt at the time. It's going to come, you know. But at least I'll get somebody, you know. But I never did see anybody. It could have been our machine gun fire, I don't know. But the guys, the infantry, they hit the ground. They weren't taking any chances. All on the road, we're going along. They're all looking up at us from the ditch. This is something crazy, you know. And they probably were right, you know. But we had to get. I felt we had to get that in, get to the guys, you know. And I don't think the guys in our company have realized that what we did to get it, you know, to get it to them. We brought it right to where they're at, you know. They should have got it. And one thing, it was one advantage. Sometimes there was food on the truck, and I get hungry. I grab a loaf of bread, and it's a big raw. They had big raw African onions. They were sweet. Nobody ever smelled my breath, so what's the difference, you know? Anyways, I ate the whole doggone onion with the bread, and I was dying for milk, and I love milk. I was raised on milk. I love milk. And I remember one time I was in guard duty outside it was in combat, outside the ration wagon. I saw a can of condensed milk. I took it, and I punched a hole in it. I drank the whole can of condensed milk. I was so hungry for milk, you know. And I got back home, I couldn't get enough ice cream. Because we didn't get the ice cream high. It was just, once in a while, it was a treat. When we first came back to the States, we came to New York again, and we saw the Statue of Liberty. That was quite a sight. We come off the boat, and there was thousands of soldiers waiting to move up, move out. You know, the trains are waiting for us. There were Red Cross girls there, you know, you offered you coffee or something, you know. And we got into the barracks. We were only there hardly a week, not even that, you know. They shipped us out, went to Camp Grant to be discharged, see. And the food they have for us, you wouldn't believe. You know, after coming back from overseas, we had K rations and C rations, and then after the war, in the Army occupation, the food was nothing to brag about, you know. And there's all the beautiful steaks and chicken and ice cream and cake. It was like a real feast. The only thing was your stomach shrunk, because you. And I couldn't eat all I wanted to eat. I was so upset. I said, I wanted to dig into this, and I couldn't do it, you know. And then we got back to camp, and my wife, you know, knew she saw a newspaper, and they would tell when the boats are coming in, and she knew she was watching, and she got the information, and she came to Chicago. She's back in Bushton, Illinois, and my brother brought her out to Camp Grant to me when I was getting ready to be discharged, and she took a room at the guest house, but before they give her that room, they wanted to see her marriage license. So she had to show her marriage license, which she did, and they let her have the room. Then I came to see her, and we're so happy. Oh, gosh, we're so happy to see each other. But and then another time, I remember maybe the change of weather, whatever it was, I got a nosebleed one night, and I just bled like crazy, and I filled up with three towels. Went to the nose doctor the next day, and he says, we have a blood vessel up there should be cauterized. And he cauterized. I never had another nosebleed. Boy, did it bleed. She got scared. She thought it was something with the war. Maybe I had a problem of some kind. I was glad that's all it was. But it wasn't easy. Here's something you maybe not hear from many fellows. It wasn't easy getting adjusted to civilian life. There were, you know, maybe 100 millions of soldiers and sailors and Marines that were let out at the same time, and they all want jobs. And it just wasn't that many jobs to go around. It was tough. Some guys took the GI Bill and went to college, you know, which is a good thing. And I wish I'd have done that too, but my wife was already pregnant, you know, and I couldn't see, you know, going to college at that time. So it was hard to find a decent job. And I think I found a job for 90 cents an hour at that time. That might be like maybe $3 an hour today. I don't know. You know, it wasn't a lot of money. I almost lost a finger in the darn thing because I got cut by a piece of metal there. And I said, this isn't for me. So I left that, and I of course, I went to, I tell you about the milkman job, I got that. That was a good paying job, though, by the way. I worked hard, but got up early in the morning. I still do. I'm up at 4 to 5, 5 o'clock every morning. And I'm used to the jobs I always had. I got up early. And I'm still an early bird. Some of these fellas think I'm crazy, guys. I can't sleep. Guess about 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm up. And a guy across the street from me, retired, told me, he says, try to follow the same routine you did when you were working. You'll last longer. He's right. So I get up, I exercise, I walk, I ride a stationary bike. I still could do 25 push-ups. I do it in the morning a lot, I was doing 50, and I cut down to 25. Because my wife got after me, says, your high blood pressure, you got to be careful now. It's got to keep her happy. I'm down to 25, and then she still yells at me. And I ride my stationary bike for about a half an hour, for about 25 miles an hour in the morning, and I try to keep in shape. And that also goes back to my Army training about keeping condition, I think, where some guys have forgotten about it, but I haven't. I'm very patriotic to this day. I can watch, I can see a parade, and my heart just pounds, beats, I've been parades downtown with the veteran group in Chicago and Columbus Day on March Day. I was the color guard. I carried a rifle. It was the old World War I Springfield. That thing weighed a ton. Had to walk a mile and a half. I thought it was going to drop. But I was sure glad when the parade ended. I've done it about 2 or 3 times. So I try to keep active, to a point. I am sad to say I don't participate in the veteran foreign wars like I should, But this has been more, since they got the 12th, that's all I think about, I think, again, I'd like to say that to the people of Abilene, they're a great group of people. They're just terrific. They'll be good to us, to the 12th Armored Division. The time we're in the service, I'm sure we had some guys probably came to town and raised heck or something. I think they're always understanding about it. A lot of them had their own sons in the service and tried to, understand. I think it might have helped us a lot too. See? And the hall, the part that I think a lot about is those graves over in Europe. I don't know if you see pictures of them. Cross after cross after cross after cross, And I don't know how many cemeteries are over there. They're French, I guess. There's a lot of them to take care of pretty well. I seen those, but they didn't have the crosses there. I saw that ground dug up and see the bodies going in, And so when I see those crosses, it goes back to my mind about what I saw before the crosses were there, And did you know that when the dog tag you have, that when a soldier is killed or sailor marine, they take one, they stick it in your mouth, see, and so that's your identification, see. And when they bury it, they know who you are, from your dog tag, see. And the other one, I think, they keep or what, I don't know what they do with that, I remember at Hammond Vale, one of the toughest part of the job was a guy get killed and I had to send the letter back. And I didn't be missing in action, killed in action. You hated to do it, but you had to. And what else was the wording? Well, that was the two I can think of right now, was missing in action and killed in action. They're the two of the things that they, that they had to put on those letters and get them back. And of course, the fellas been asked to they want to send their package of souvenirs home, maybe their guns, flags, whatever, they give them to me, and they'd have to get them packaged, though, get somebody in their office to fix a box and so forth, and I would mail it for them. They give me a few marks. Sometimes it was too much. It was German money marks. They give me a few marks, sometimes a little more. So I used that for the ones that didn't give me enough, So it balanced off, And because I didn't have a scale, I just had, well, I think it's this, or I think it's that, As far as the mail went, we got free mail. We didn't have to worry about stamps. It was free. We had then they had that VE mail. Did you ever see that VE mail I had? It's well, they have that. Was supposed to save a lot of room space and weight and all that. I was using that quite a bit. I used to send my wife a telegram once in a while, for a special occasion, and this would scare the hell out of her. She thought, excuse me, it used to scare the heck out of her. She thought that maybe something happened to me. So she says, please don't send no more telegrams. So I didn't send any more telegrams. But the uniform I had wasn't my regular uniform when I got discharged. They made us change uniforms because our clothes were maybe slept in for who knows how long or what. So I had a new uniform, but the doggone thing didn't fit. My wife says I look like a sad sack, Hanging the pants were hanging, And I wish I had kept my my old uniform, because that fit, it fit me real well. But they didn't care. You're going to be discharged, and they just threw anything at you, and the shoes were beat up. I had nice combat boots that I turned in, and I got a bunch of some GI shoes that looked like heck, So she said she could have cried when she first saw me. So nasty. But I will say this: my ETO jacket. That's the jacket we have from overseas. They call it the Eisenhower jacket. It was a short, nice jacket, short one. We had the long one we used to have for dress, but when we went overseas, we got this short one. And I liked that a lot, and that one fit me very well. So I used that when I was working on the milk wagon. I just it was nice and warm, and I wore it out. Now I'm kind of sorry I did, but in those days, money wasn't too plentiful, and you try to, could I use the jacket? I used it, see. But some fellas have. They wouldn't fit me now, anyways. I think I weighed 152 pounds at the time. I weigh about 162 now, so I couldn't get in it. But my wife said I was all skin and bones when I came back, because you just don't eat like you did when you're home, And she said she had nothing. She felt sorry for me, but I'm just the experience I had. I'm sure millions of others had the same experience. I was lucky to have a wife that stuck by me. I remember the guys we get letters. We call them Dear John letters. Their girls were. So I'm sorry I met somebody else. Even some of the guys are married. We're getting letters like that. I'm sorry I met somebody else. And I want a divorce, or if there was a girlfriend, I'm sorry I met somebody else, They didn't wait, Well, they couldn't love them very much, That's my wife said she couldn't see anybody but me, So I'm not just bragging, but that's what she told me. So anyway, she stuck by me, and that's the kind of girl I was lucky to have. And she'd be a nice, believe it or not, to do it. She was a good little small town country girl, and she wasn't used to having a lot, and she could do whatever. She never pushed me. I became a vice president because she never really get on me. She worked with me. See, so I thought I reached a pretty level I can handle things. But sometimes the girl gets impatient and she pushes a fellow before he gets his feet on the ground. And I had my brother Ted, the one who was in the Air Force. He had a girl from St. Louis he married, and it didn't work out because she was never, she couldn't seem to realize he was adjusting from military life to civilian life. And she had to be very patient with him, see, and I guess she just wasn't. So anyhow, it didn't work out. So there were a lot of things like that happened, And I kept Jimmy Meyer, by the way. Remember I told you about Best Man? You might want to hear this. They wound up having 6 kids, but she died in childbirth with the 6th one. And they were Catholic. And his sister, who was living with her brother, was a priest, taking care of the brother. She came to take care of his children. And she filled in just like a mother. And she raised his 6 children for him. He was very fortunate. I've been trying to reach him. I can't reach him. I'm afraid that he was older than I am, and I'm afraid that maybe he's either gone or he's in a state of mind that he's probably not very rational. I call long distance, and I can't seem to connect. I'm going to try again when I get back home. I do have a picture of he and his wife. Like my wife, she took a picture from when we got married. She has the original one. We have copies at home, see. And it's from that studio that was there at the time. And they were great too, by the way. They gave us extra pictures and what have you. But anyways, Jimmy had one just like that. His wife in his uniform. They could see her in love, She was, by the way, she was a twin, But he brought it on one time. He brought a twin with her one time, and he thought we were going to hit it off, and it didn't work out. But anyways, Jimmy, I have a picture of Jimmy and his wife in uniform, and I know his children would love to have that picture. And that's why I was calling the last time. I know something's wrong, but if I could just talk to one of his kids, I'd say, look, I got a picture I'm sure you'd love to have, but I'd like to talk to somebody, so I don't want to send it to an address that maybe they moved, and maybe it's an old phone number I have. See, I mean, maybe it's not an active phone number for his family, anyways, So that's something else I'm trying to work out. But and of course we get these reunions. We get to meet a lot of the fellas. Of course, I was in battalion headquarters, and I knew a lot of these fellas, not personally, but being in battalion headquarters, I know their names, I know their history, perhaps better than they thought I did, And I meet a lot of them here at these reunions for the first time, and we get to know each other. But in the service, you make some buddies, but you don't make a lot of buddies, It seems like it's 2 or 3 guys you might be real close to, and the rest, for some reason, don't get too close because if something should go wrong, you don't want to be hurt too bad, But I wish I could think of. Usually I could talk an arm and leg off of somebody, and And here I should be doing a lot of talking. I know you. Can you think of something to help me out here that you might like to know?
I think you told me a lot of good stories.
You think so?
Carl,
Yeah.
do you have any?
Are we short?
No,
Are we fine? Okay. Otherwise, I'll tell you how much I got in the bank.
Do you have any other stories you want to share with us?
No, except that I have at home, down in the rec room, I have a space that's strictly, I have my hats, all the things I get for these reunions, you know. And my wife upstairs has got things that just loaded from, you know, we gave a lot to the museum. I hope they show them. And we have a lot of things that we wore, you know, and for memory. We had our 50th anniversary 3 years ago, and we had we had fellows from the American Legion, the Veteran Foreign Wars, the Santa War veterans, and we had I could kind of call it the next veterans anniversary. But anyway, we had a lot of family naturally, and we had a great time. And I had an orchestra that with a 4-piece band. He could give you as many pieces you want, but I know him from my veterans group. He played in the army. He used to go to hospitals with his band, play. He was in the service. He was a single corps, but then he got into the special services, which they went around playing for people. Very, very good. He's a professional musician. And he gave me a break on the price because we're going to the same post and we're good friends. We used to eat dinner together once a month at the meetings. We have a dinner at the meeting. And he's plays all the old songs. Excuse me, the old songs, the 50s, the 60s, you know, and the ones in the 40s, and even some from the 30s. He's very good. And they played such beautiful music and such fond memories. We sit there and just see all that comes back to you. And he gave me a videotape, not a videotape, a cassette of his when he went to a veteran foreign wars reunion. He rehearsed. He wrote it. He got this cassette, and it is great. And you want to talk about memories? Now, I don't know about the younger generation. Our songs were all very sentimental. They're romantic. They were touched. They reached the heart. Your emotions they're good, made you feel good. I don't mean a crazy drum beat like in rock music, but I mean you've just made you feel good all the way through. You didn't have to have a lot of crazy music. We had our jitterbug, but I'm talking about a lot. If you ever heard Glenn Miller and all those old songs, you know. And this is what he plays a lot of these songs, see. And his name is Mario, and I had some made up of these cassettes. Some of these cassettes made up. I get my brothers and friends, you know, and they're just crazy about it. And sometimes I take a long trip, I'll play it. And you want to relax? I'm usually kind of high-strung, and I listen to that music, and I will lay back, you know. So our music is good. I wish now they say the younger generations start to get back into this music. I was reading the paper the other day. They're like to start to appreciate and like this music. I wish they would. I think it would help them tremendously, because that rock and roll, which is really comes from the Afro type of music, you know. And I don't think it's not soothing. I think it's, if anything, then you got all this. It's just a lot of craziness that I know I sound like an old-fashioned guy, but I am an old-fashioned guy. But I don't see where there's any benefit to it, you know. I like music and feel. Like people that not classical, the opera music and stuff like that, you know. I can't see that kind of music, but some of it is good, and I can see why they do, because it does kind of reach the emotions, the feelings. But music where it doesn't get to you, you know, where it doesn't make you feel good all over. I don't appreciate that at all. See. So the fact that our anniversary, we had a lot of young people. My kids and a lot of younger people there. They wanted to get the old, you know, a lot of their music, that rock and roll and stuff. You know, Mario won't play it. He plays it at disc. You know, I don't play that kind of music. And he puts a disc up for us. But what do you call them? Disc jockeys now. He has that type of music too. If they want to play something, he won't play. See, but. I'm from the old school, and I think when our generation passes on, I think we're getting close to that. I think another 10 years, I think most of us will be gone. I think something's going to be missing, and even the guys from the Vietnam War, you know, it's they're leaving a different generation for them too, you know, because they were treated badly and they have kind of a better feeling there, and then they all let them get that dope type of thing, you know, a lot of them get the dope over there. It's a different group. I respect them, you know, and they went to hell. They went to an awful lot, and my heart goes out to them, and I think they're not to blame because they weren't supported like they should have been. They were coming, the soldiers were coming from Vietnam, and they're being spit on. Well, they're spitting on the American flag. You know, some of them today want to spit on the American flag. And I said, do you realize what we don't get the American flag. When I see that they spit on the flag and they destroy the American flag, and I say to myself, now what in the world is the matter with these people? They realize what the flag represents. What I say is it's just a symbol. It's not a symbol. It represents our country. You know, on Iwo Jima, when the Marines ran that flag up there, how proud they were when they saw that, you know, and how proud we are. We march in the parade and that flag blows, you know. It represents us. All the good, the patriotism, the sacrifices that the country did. It's not just a symbol, or a piece of a garment or something. You know, it says a piece of cloth. It's not. It stands for something. You know, and they can't get their goofy minds. I use that expression because I can't rationalize, and a lot of it. They don't know. They don't know love of country. And our country's not perfect. You know, as I said, we got a lot of improvement to do, but it's the best in all the world. You know, I'm griping now about a lot of things, but compared to what the rest of the world is like, you know, it's great. But the other thing is, too, we cannot keep bringing people over here that we cannot support, and we're doing it all the time. The country's a great country as long as we keep strong. If we keep strong, we can help other people. But if we let ourselves get weak, we can't help nobody, not even ourselves. So sometimes maybe you got to be a little hard-nosed, but you have to. It's in the Army too. You know, you can't be a soft either. You know, you like a guy very much. You see his weakening. You can't cry with him. You got to make him feel like make him boost up his morale. Make him feel like he's being a coward, or in a way that he's not a coward, but in a way he's not doing his duty. You see, you can't show emotions. You know that might destroy your ability to perform, and others as well. See. Because if you go to get in a tight spot and one guy starts cracking up, you know, like it's destroyed the whole group, you know. Then they want to surrender or give up or something, you know. You gotta, like I said, fear it can be used as a strengthening factor if you use it properly. If you give into it, you go for an operation, for example. You're scared, aren't you? Well, you talk yourself into it, and you crack a few jokes, you know. You go to an operating table, you choke, you know, you laugh. Maybe you're fooling yourself, but at least you're putting on a bravado attitude, you know. And I used to be scared to heck when I went for an operation, you know. And I've changed a little bit on that because I talk myself into not being afraid. What you would do if you're in combat, you know. And I say, I'm not going to be afraid. I'm gonna do this, and I'm not going to let anybody be ashamed of me. See. And then my wife's watching. I want to think I'm a coward, you know. So what I do, I do it as I can. I put on my brave front thing. But always remember, we all have fear, and we're all going to have it, no matter what. It's how you control it. See. Without fear, you won't survive. You really won't, because instinct is to survive, and fear is part of that instinct to get your blood going, you know, get you worked up, you know. Now let's see. Would you like to know about this morning I got up and I said I got to shave real well. I'm gonna look my best for this. I comb a little hair I have left, see, and I chew a little cologne on, you know. So I try to do my best, you know. But I know I might be sounding somebody will watch this and say, oh, he's stupid, he's an idiot, he's this, he's that, you know. But I'm a sincere type of guy, and I like to talk as much from my heart, you know. And maybe some of the things I say, people won't agree with, I'm sure. We don't all agree on the same things, you know. But I like to think most of the time I'm right. And I think in my lifetime, most of the time, you know, I guess I was proven to be right, because there are a lot of things that show I must have been, and a lot of things that show maybe I wasn't, you know. But you kind of feel you just try not to hurt anybody if you possibly can help it. That's the whole thing. I had a chance when I first went out of service to sell cars. You know, there wasn't any jobs around, and I saw how these guys are out and they lie to people and deceive them. You know, and I said, that's not for me. You know, and I walked out that same day. I feel that I don't want to be ashamed of what I'm doing. You know, I want to be able to say, well, I did my best. You know, I've taken some jobs that sometimes that some people would, you know, like get up, look route ahead, get up 4 o'clock in the morning. Running the stairs in Chicago, Chicago got 3 stories, loaded with bottles of milk. They're heavy as heck. Run up and down the stairs. I fell down in the ice one time and broke all the bottles. And another time a rat ran by my leg, you know, and going up and down the stairs, we come through the alleys, you know. And that was in Chicago, so you know, it's in your life, some of those alleys, big rats in them, you know. But, of course, we live in the suburbs. But I think it all had its way, and I think it all did well for us. At these reunions, I find that we're all getting older. I see it every year. And sometimes it scares you a little bit. You say, well, a proud group of fellas are going. You have, we get more emotional, I'm sure. Like he said up there the other day, that everybody's getting older. We don't want to say we're getting older. We're just getting, he used the expression, get elderly or something. You know. He tried to use an expression that didn't sound quite as drastic, you know. And I'm saying you know all the time, and I keep that. I know it's wrong. You should say you know. And every time somebody else says it, I correct them, and here I'm doing the same thing. You know. It's not proper English. Not proper to do, anyways. So I'm going to say that I was trying to think of some things that might interest you. We had, fortunately, in the civilian army, some of the fellows with you know, are sad sacks, you know, and we had one guy. I don't know how he ever got in. He was a really funny looking guy. I guess he couldn't help himself, but he was really strange looking. And his name was Spiegel, so we call him Spiegel the Eagle. See, but he was a funny looking guy. And he when he marched, you couldn't march behind him because he kind of marched cockeyed, like, you know. And you're supposed to follow step the guy in front of you, see. And then there was another fellow that got in front of me. I guess he had a hard time. He used to bounce. Well, by golly, I'm trying to keep step, and he's going boom, 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 you know. And so I figured you have to be a little ingenuity. I figured I'll follow the guy in front of him. And so I followed the guy's step in front of him, see, because I could never follow him. But I'm telling you, because I thought it was funny at the time, because, and then we had, then of course, at the end of the war, we're all looking to get back home, and we had close order drill, and we're marching, you know, close order drill is, we're marching, and some of us are daydreaming, you know. Once in a while, they see a guy, he say, okay, to the right flank, march, and some guy would go to the left flank, and the German people look out the window watching us, and one guy goes this way, and the rest go that way. They must have thought, how did these guys beat us? We're guys getting back to beat civilians, you know, they're waiting to go home, they didn't really care anymore, see. And they're trying to keep us in some kind of military discipline, you know, so we don't fall apart, you know, till we, you know, some kind of order. But they had in camp, as I said, camp was early Army life itself is a very lonely life. Some of the fellows overseas would get passes to go to, like in England, they got a chance to go to London, or in Europe, they got a chance to go to Paris or somewhere. You know, I never went because I was trying to be true to my wife, and I felt that if I go, you know, who knows, you know, something might happen. So I figured I'll stay in camp. So I stayed in camp all the time, and kept out of trouble that way. And some guys did go. Not all the guys. Some guys went. They couldn't give everybody a pass, you know. But I could have gotten one if I wanted, but I didn't take it. Even in the States here, we had the opportunity to get a furlough. I forget how it was, once a year or something. You get a furlough. And of course, you like to get back home and see your family. And I always took advantage of that when I get a chance to go back home. And of course, I told you about when we got married down in Abilene. The division was alerted, which meant no furloughs. That's why she come down to marry me. And I had told her when she said she was going to marry me, we're going to get married. I said, Judy, you know, if you come down here, you know, we didn't talk about getting married first. She said she's going to come down and see me. She wanted to see me. She couldn't let me go overseas without seeing me. Well, so I wrote back, well, if you come down and see me, we're going to get married. Because I could see her coming down all that way by herself, you know, and I really loved her. And I was afraid something might happen, you know, and so I said, well, nobody's going to talk about this, you know, so I said, we're going to get married. Best move I made. And we had 5 days together. So we told the people, we were mentioned at our anniversary, And the people all laugh, and I said, because a lot of the guys would say, let her come down, they're going to have fun, But I didn't feel that way. I loved her too much for that. We're going to get married. Because I put my cards on the table. This is just a girl for me. And it worked out. I guess I say this, it was God was with us. They say some marriages are made in heaven. I think ours was, because the way it all happened, it could have went the other way so easily, But it seemed like we seemed to know. She seemed to know. And I seemed to know. So it worked out. And she wrote. What little money I sent her, she saved it. She didn't spend a dime of it, And she's a good girl. And she remember, the country girl's not a cook, and they can sew. And when money is tight, that helps. Because she can make a dish out of most anything, And it's easy, very tasty. She could sew things. She used to make the kids, a lot of our children, she used to make a lot of their clothes for them, things like that. They helped a lot, So, and she's as you know, a hell kid. But she's a real hell kid, because she was married during the war in Abilene, Texas. And I think she had more right to be the hell kid than a lot of the others there. Well, they all got the right, don't get me wrong. I mean, they all had the right, but I feel that she's right there with the 4 other couples, I think, were in Abilene that were married at Camp Barkley. And we all got together, had our pictures taken. Didn't know men, before that. It's a big division. You really don't know. Even your own battalion, you have most of the guys you don't know, So it's just a small world, and yet it's a big world. But I like the idea that I got a chance and received the chance to meet people from all over the country, all the states, towns, cities, villages, what have you, Now you have a chance to know people. I remember we were in the barracks, and I think it was Camp Campbell, Kentucky, I think it was. We're in the barracks, and I hear a little fiddle going, how the old fiddlers play, and the barn dance, And there was this fellow with the fiddle, and he's fiddled away, and it was good. And a lot of the old farm boys around, listening to the music. We're from the city, we weren't accustomed to that music, and we listened. A lot of us liked it, But But then we learned something too, that certain areas of the country, they have different type of music, There's Western music, and we different. We weren't too familiar with the Western music. We learned right there and then Western music. That's not bad at all, The only thing I thought about Western music, it's always so sad, That's the only part. It's always so sad, Somebody lost his girlfriend, or some guy got drunk or something, But it's good music. And any music is good as long as it keeps you out of trouble. Let's see. Can you think of something? Maybe I hope I'm not boring you, because he's so quiet over there. I wonder about him. Are you taking all this in? Are you? Huh? Are you really? I'm going to use it for a witness later.
I think you've covered pretty much.
I tried to. An hour is a long time, and there's I'll probably leave her and think of maybe 50 other things I might want to have said,
See, if you come by Abilene again, we'll do another interview.
Okay.
Next 3 years.
I do have something here if you want me to add to it. The date of my enlistment was March the 30th, 1942. The date of departure from the country was September 20th, 1944. Destination ETO was European Theater of Operation. Date of arrival October 1st, 1944. And then I came back January. Date of departure from Europe was January 2nd, 1946. Destination USA. Date of arrival was January 13th, 1946. Ship Cody Victory of New York. And Separation Center, Camp Grant, Illinois, January 18th, 46. And I think most of that I went over with you, promoted. I told I was promoted sergeant, in charge. Just wrote a few notes on her, just take a second glance over these. Maybe I can find something in here. A lot of us were homesick, no question about it. And there's one more here. I always mention my wife being 18 years old because she was so young, I told her, she says I robbed the cradle, but because I was 23 at the time. That hotel there in Abilene, which is now the Grace Museum, I think that's great. What a job you're doing, and if, I think it. When I boarded ship, we boarded ship at the port of embarkation. It was the name of the ship was I think it was the Bliss or whatever it was. They piled us in like cattle. We were 6 decks below when they finally put us, and we're coming in, with our guns in our sacks, our knapsacks, what do you have? And there was an officer, and he slammed her into a bunk. So we had I think it was 2 tiers, I think I remember correctly. Boom, he threw you in there. Boom, they want to get you on as fast as they can. That was at night. See, they didn't want the Germans to know what was going on. See, and then we pulled out, and in the morning we're out at sea, and I went to the deck and looked out, and I tell you, for as far as the eyes could see were boats. You would never in your life could imagine what that was like. All far out were boats, and off the distance you can see destroyers circling around to protect us against submarines if they possibly can. As you know, some boats got sunk. And that was my worry. I was 6 decks down. I said, if a submarine hits us, we don't stand a chance, But it never worked out. And all the guys in our group shaved our heads bald because we were told that you don't get a chance to wash and lice and all that type of thing. It's better if you shave your head. Somebody started a rumor. Our whole boat, I think, were a bunch of baldies, But of course, I'm going to go back later. But and that's about something I thought I might add. We used to hang on the deck there. It was very, very boring. 11 days, a lot of time, and to be out there. Some guys got sick. They puked and all that, I got a headache, but I never got to the point I vomited. I was glad for that. We found out that the Navy eats better than we do. Their food was superior to ours. And some of the guys wanted to join the Navy. And then we had from air attack, we had some of our artillerymen man the guns to relieve the sailors on their guns. We watched for aircraft. Some of our artillery people were put on duty with that, and it was a great sight to see land. And we finally hit it. Going up the Seine River, which is when I remember said we left England, crossed the Channel, went up the Seine River to Rouen, France. In the Seine River, we saw where a boat was sunk, right in the middle there. And all you could see above it was a 50 caliber machine gun. So it must have been an American boat that was sunk. Just sticking out of the water was this 50 caliber machine gun. Of course, we went around and we didn't want to hit it. And that was the first look we had at about what was ahead for us, And that was it. And so we traveled at night a lot. Mostly we moved at night. Sometimes in the daytime when they felt pretty secure. And I saw some planes get shot down, German planes. We were up on a hill one time, and we look and I see a plane coming in, and I thought it might have been one of ours, and I saw the blue fire machine gun coming from his gun. So we all hit the ground, and bullets went over us. That was and another time we got strafed for the convoy, and this German plane come down on us and strafing us, and everybody got out, And one of the machine gunners was a pretty good shot. He got him down at the end of the end of the line, and we saw him go down behind the mountains, and it was a burst of flames, so they knocked him out of the air. But that was the first 2 times we were strafed because we had pretty well had control of the skies, after a while. Not at first, but after a while. I remember watching the bombers going over, The sky was full of the American bombers heading for Germany to bomb, I remember watching them. It was a good feeling to say that's our guys, But and then of course, another thing, always these bleeding hearts today. They say, well, we bombed Germany. Look what we did to Berlin. Look what we did to these German cities. And they killed. There was a firestorm. Killed so many people. But they forget what they did to London. And, in England, they practically destroyed London. They did it first, and then they had those bombs. I forget what they call them. We were talking about them yesterday. That they shot into the air, into England, into London, and they killed a lot of people. So as far as the airfare goes, when warfare goes in the air on bombing cities, the Germans really started. They did it to England, and they did it in Poland, Czechoslovakia, and all the European nations that they conquered, especially Poland. So it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. It's tragic, but. War is not good, and if you have to fight back, and sometimes you got to fight the same way they fight you, and that's what we did. It happened in Japan, And I'm glad, I say I'm glad that they dropped that atomic bomb, because who knows how many more fellows would have died. A lot of these kids walking the street today wouldn't be around because their fathers would have probably went in that invasion. As it is, a lot of them did as it was, you know. Those are things to think about when you sit in your history class and somebody says with a bleeding heart starts to cry about, you know, well, Americans weren't so great, you know. The Americans were great. And look what we did for the rest of the world. We didn't conquer anybody or take over their land. We helped them. Look at Germany and Japan today, how prosperous they are, because we helped these people to get a democratic government and become to a contributing factor in society today. But if they'd have won, you'd have been a slave nation. So if you wouldn't have had that. So those are things that people have to remember and they forget. Our generation, we know that. We know how the civilians sacrifice. I'm talking about the military. We know how the civilians sacrifice. You know the things that they did? They gave us the weapons to fight with. And when we got attacked at Pearl Harbor, we didn't have anything. I remember training when we didn't even have guns to train with at the very beginning. Did guard duty with an old Spanish-American, an old 44 pistol with one bullet in it, you know. We had nothing. And that's for about my first 2 months of the service. It's then we were getting equipment. They brought in machine guns and stuff we could work with. But that's it. People don't want to say, well, why did we lose Bataan and Corregidor? We had nothing to fight back with. You know, the better part of our navy was gone. The lost thousands, a couple of 1,200 sailors, 1,500 sailors, whatever it was. The Arizona still has 1,100 men under. Have you ever been to Hawaii? Did you ever see that? Did you ever go to Hawaii? Have you been to Hawaii? Did you go see the Arizona? Oh, you should go to Pearl Harbor. Oh yes, you should. You take a ride there. There's still 1,100 men buried in that boat, and they got the mask is still above ground. It's a memorial. But I bring that up for a reason. I bring that up is that they have to realize that that world out there is a mean old world. It's not like we think it is. You know, we turn the other cheek. A lot of them don't do that. You just look at the nation, like in Bosnia and look at Bosnia today. What's with this between the Serbs and the Muslims and what's going on over there? It's like the Holocaust all over again. So it just goes to show you, it doesn't take much for people that that can get to that level. Especially a country that hasn't had a chance, that never had the chance that we had over here. I just hope that people realize that we got to what I'm trying to say, we need a strong nation, strong military. If you don't have that, we found it. If we didn't learn something from Pearl Harbor, we should be ready to protect yourselves. And they're already talking about cutting the budget, cutting the military, cutting this, cutting that, closing bases, you know. If they had closed all these bases at the Desert Star War, what would you train all the fellows in the reserve that had to get another 5-6 weeks training out on what was to be, you know, to bring them up to be a level that they could compete in warfare? Where would you train them? At the Hilton Hotel? You know, you can't do that. See? And they're closing bases. They're doing it with the Navy too. Glenview Air Station in our area has been closed. They closed Camp Grant, Fort Sheridan, big centers for induction from our area, and they closed a big naval station out in California and brought it to Great Lakes. So they did give us a bigger Great Lakes naval station, but I'd rather close any of them down. Because they, so I don't know. It seems to me we're going back to say history repeats itself. Well, by golly, and we won't get a chance to prepare for the next war like we had in World War II. You know, we had an ocean to keep them off. There's not they can fly overnight to you. So we got to be ready. Well, I guess before you guys shut me off, I better shut myself off, no? She's going to sleep for you, know.
No, I'm not. I haven't had any sleep this whole week, so it's a problem.